In today's movie industry, Hollywood seems to be running out of ideas and are really desperate to find the next big blockbuster that'll bring in the big bucks. Because of this, there are less and less films that have an original screenplay and more adaptations that are sometimes based on something that we would never guess that it would turn into a movie. Now, I don't mean the usual stuff like remakes, books, or biographies. Oh, no. I mean stuff like video games, action figures, theme park rides, and even board games. But if there's one thing that Hollywood loves to adapt and never seems to get it right, is cartoons. Now for this top 10, not only does it have to be based on an animated series, but it also has to be live action or mostly live action, and it must have a theatrical release. I'm Animat, and this is the top 10 worst films based on a cartoon.
Deception, disgrace, evil is plain as the scar on his face. Deception, and outrage, disgrace, for shame.
He asked for trouble the moment he came.
Number 10. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. During the early 60s, Rocky and Bullwinkle was known as one of the most popular cartoons on TV thanks to its memorable characters and really clever humor, and went on to influence some other popular shows like The Simpsons. So I'm sure that making a movie in the style of the show would actually work out, right? Wrong. The biggest problem that this film has is that the story is just a huge mess of random plot points. It's like if the writers had this goal to cramp as much scenarios as they can in a 90-minute film. There's no explaining why it's happening or its purpose. Things just happen and it moves on from there. Here's a good example of what I mean. Boris, Natasha, and Fearless Leader all come out of the TV and turn into live action. They moved from Hollywood to New York and took over Manhattan. They got a building with a satellite that can hypnotize people and turn them into mindless zombies when they watch their TV channel, RBTV, which, by the way, already a third of the US population has been zombified, and now the US government sends a rookie FBI agent to bring Rocky and Bullwinkle back to the real world to stop the spies and Fearless Leader. And all this happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie! I mean, what were they thinking when they were writing this? You're one of the main characters. Can you explain to me what the fridge is going on?
I don't know. I didn't write the movie. I'm only one of the characters.
Breaking the fourth wall will get you nowhere. You know that, right? Another problem that I have with this movie is the use of animation. I can understand at the beginning with the bad 2D animation in the style of the show, but when it goes to live action, things get really confusing. Listen up. They have this machine that they say is the first that can kill off cartoons.
What about that movie Roger Rabbit?
Shut up! This is totally different!
To prove its deadliness, they tested on this 2D animated weasel. But wait a minute, Rocky and Bullwinkle came here as computer animated, so how did the weasel came to the real world in 2D? But then there's the factor of Boris, Natasha, and Fearless Leader. When they came out of the TV, they suddenly become real people, and like Boris said,
I ain't a cartoon no more.
So do their appearance depend on how they came to the real world, or am I just overanalyzing the whole thing? Oh, and by the way, did I mention that the cartoon killing machine is called the CDI? Because, you know, if it can kill off the reputation of Mario and Zelda, surely it can kill off a cartoon moose and squirrel. But there are a few good things about the movie. I do enjoy Jason Alexander, Rene Russo, and Robert De Niro's performance as the villains, and there are some good jokes from them.
And the laughter never gets away, with 3 funny and wacky spies and their horse, who will also be a spy.
Hey, I didn't know there was a spy version of Sex and the City. Also, it's nice that they try to make it feel like the original cartoon, like its self-referential humor. But the problem with that is just a lot of the jokes are bad, and by always pointing out that they're bad won't make it any better. The jokes will still be bad, and like I said before, breaking the fourth wall will get you nowhere. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Here's something we doubt you'll really like. Number 9. Yogi Bear. Poor Hanna-Barbera. It seems that Hollywood likes to take all their cartoons that made them a household name and mess them up with a film adaptation. They must be rolling in their graves so much that they made their own racetrack 6 feet under. But back on to Yogi Bear. I get the feeling that nobody, and I mean nobody, cares about this movie at all. And the people who care the least about this film are the cast and crew. Almost everybody pretty much half-ass what they do just so they can get their paychecks sooner. In terms of story, it's like if the writers opened the TV and copied the plot from what they just saw, making it super predictable from top to bottom. To show you guys how predictable the movie is, allow me to give you a tiny summary of one part of the movie. Jellystone Park is making a fundraiser to save the park from an evil mayor, and then Yogi Bear comes in and screws everything up. Now, let's take a moment to think about how the rest of the movie would go. You got it? Good. Alright, now add a lot of bad jokes in there, and you could consider yourself that you have seen Yogi Bear. In terms of characters, not only are they very bland and uninteresting, but they're also either unnecessary, like Ranger Smith's love interest, Rachel, or just embarrassing to watch, like Ranger Jones. It doesn't help that he didn't even try to act.
I messed up pretty bad, sir.
I know, Jones, and it's okay.
Because I wanted to be head ranger. That's partly because you're such a good head ranger, and also because I really value leadership. I have a merit badge.
Can we talk about this later because of how we're pressed for time?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Ranger Smith. It's just that I'm so worried about this situation. Can't you guys tell that I want to do something about it? The only human actor who I guess is trying is the villain, Mayor Brown. But even with that, I'm not buying his performance. He sounds more like a used car salesman more than a politician.
Well, I guess we're just gonna have to find some money somewhere, right? Because I'm about to run for governor. How am I gonna do that when my own city is going bankrupt? Okay, yes, thank you.
Hi, friend, Sam Beauregard here, Square Deal Sam to you with all of today's great giveaway bargains, the finest values you'll get anywhere in the entire country.
But like I said, it's almost everybody who half-assed the whole thing. There are still a few who at least put in some level of effort, like the animation on Yogi and Boo Boo is okay, Justin Timberlake is surprisingly good as Boo Boo, and like Rocky and Bullwinkle, they try to keep the spirit of the show instead of modernizing it or tries to be cool for the young kids. Even though that I'm only getting started, this is unfortunately the last film on the list that's trying to be like the cartoon it's based on, and to be honest guys, I'm starting to get scared. But with a very transparent story and uninteresting characters, even the average bear would be smart enough to pass this film. Number 8. Masters of the Universe. He-Man was well known as possibly the manliest cartoon of the 80s. It stars a manly man going on manly adventures on a manly tiger battling a manly villain. He's so manly that he would only have a relationship with other manly men. But back onto the movie. The biggest problem with this film is that when I watch it, I feel like it's more of a parody of He-Man than an actual adaptation. One reason is that the acting can go all over the place. Like Skeletor would overact his every move, or He-Man would go and underact. Speaking of He-Man, if you think my gay joke before was a cheap shot, that's nothing compared to how the movie portrays him. Not only does Ivan Drago plays it as his genetically enhanced neutral self, but he keeps wearing that whatever he's wearing and always showing off his chest to the camera. He does wear something else later on in the movie, but it's just in his underwear in a scene where he was a bad boy and deserved a good whipping. Oh, and by the way, check out his new hot rod.
Ready?
native transportation.
Now, I'm not against gay marriage or anything, but is there any more ways that we can make He-Man gayer?
Have you seen it? It's this large. It has lights on.
If at the end you want them to cheer, keep it gay, keep it gay, keep it gay.
Another factor on why it's more of a parody is the characters from our world. Yeah, I forgot to mention that the plot resolves on He-Man and his gang teleporting from Grayskull to our world. Imagine all the crazy hijinks that they'll encounter. Anyways, I feel like they just kill the mood of the movie, like it would stop an intense scene, or an attempt of one, just so we could see those characters in their daily lives. Not to mention that they would help make the film and the other characters even stupider.
He-Man, someone's following us.
What the hell is that?
That is actually a very good question. He's not even in the original show, and he looks like a mix of Jim Broadbent and Celestius Crumb from Star Wars, with the voice of Figment from the Journey into Imagination ride.
I don't believe it.
If there's anything good I have to say about the film is that at least it looks nice, like the settings, the costumes, and even the makeup. Well, except for Skeletor's. I mean, I'm not buying one bit that he's supposed to have a skull for a face. I mean, why can't they do like the Red Death costume in the Phantom of the Opera? Even that looks more like Skeletor than this guy. Your chains are still mine. You will sing for me. Yeah. But even with the power of Grayskull, Masters of the Universe is still a dumb and weak adaptation. Number 7. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Okay, technically I'm cheating on this one, since the movies are based on the toys more than the animated series. But you cannot tell me that the show didn't have an influence on the franchise at all. Heck, Peter Cullen, the original voice of Optimus Prime, reprised his role in all the movies. Speaking of which, have you ever noticed that they're all the same film? If you think about it, they all share the same plot points, like the wacky life of Shia LaBeouf, Optimus Prime expositioning, the Decepticons planning to get back at the Autobots, them almost leaving Earth because one politician says so, just to name a few. Not to mention the similar non-returning characters like the one who knows about aliens, the douchebag politician that wants the Autobots to leave this planet, and the human that works for the Decepticons, which in the case of the second movie, is a Terminator. So the Decepticons have made an alliance with Skynet. Not gonna lie, that's actually a really smart move. They are definitely not good films, but the special effects are amazing and spectacular enough to keep it from being terrible. In the case of Revenge of the Fallen though, I don't think the effects would save this one. The thing that irritates me about the films is that the human characters are really obnoxious and annoying. But in Transformers 2, they are at their worst. Not only do we have this dick that they call a protagonist, Megan Fox, and the first douchebag politician, but now we have this hacker who won't stop panicking and talking at 80 miles an hour, these totally out-of-place comic reliefs that involves a tiny annoying Decepticon turned good, and two of the most racist things ever put on the big screen since Jar Jar. But the ones who tick me off the most every time they're on screen in all of the movies, and the worst of the bunch, are Shia LaBeouf's parents.
No. Please give me. Hey, it's my cheat day. I can eat what I want.
I'm gonna freak out. Please do something right now, Dad. Please do something right now.
I can eat all the freaking brownies I want.
Listen, you two. Can you do us all a favor and let your characters die, or quit, or compare Michael Bay to Hitler? I don't care how you do it! Just leave! But if there is one reason why Revenge of the Fallen is the worst of the films, is that halfway through the movie, they kill off Optimus Prime. and he doesn't come back from the dead until the very end for reasons too stupid to remember. Now, the problem with that is that, for me, Optimus Prime is the reason why we watched these films. He is Transformers. Without him during the big battle at the end, which is the best part for the fans, it just feels like another big budgeted giant robots movie. And you know what's the worst thing about Optimus's absent? We have to see a lot more of these guys.
Oh, God, please, God, please.
Yo, stop bringing up. Stop bringing up.
Shut this guy up, huh? Please, just let me live. Just let me live. Just let me. Just stop. All right, that's it.
Oh boy! We're gonna go on a swell adventure! Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. More stupid than meets the eye. Number 6. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel. There was a time when Alvin and the Chipmunks were decent. A time when they were Saturday morning cartoon stars, and even actual pop stars releasing some albums along the way. Nowadays, however, they are the poster boys of bad films based on a cartoon. Like Transformers, the Chipmunk movies all share similar flaws that marks them as bad films. The plots are predictable and been done several times before. The human actors are either a douche, an idiot, or in many cases both, and the songs they sing are just bad modern pop songs. I think the worst in that category is the first one, because not only they do those pop songs, but they also do terrible pop versions of their songs.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Come to think of it, not only there's that comparison to the Transformers movies, but the reason why the Squeakquel is the most hated of the bunch is just like Revenge of the Fallens. It has the same flaws as the other films, but theirs are the most ridiculous because in the Squeakquel, the plot is about the Chipmunks going to high school.
And this isn't your average high school that everyday people go to. Oh, no. This is, well, your average high school that everyday people go to. In a film that stars singing chipmunks.
There are two reasons why this plot just doesn't work out at all. One, and the most obvious, is how people react to this. They acknowledge that they're chipmunks and they're really small, but the classmates see them as the new kids of the block, and the girls are all gaga over them like, oh my god, Alvin is so hot, I so go out with him. But let's say for a moment that we buy the fact that the chipmunks can go to school. Here's where reason number 2 kicks in. There's a plot point where Alvin is trying to fit in with the cool kids of the school. The problem with that is that they're world famous pop stars. Why do you need attention from these guys when you already have international fame? If anything, they should be the ones trying to get your attention. By the way, if you want to know about the Chipettes in this, they're just thrown in to copy some plot elements from the first movie. No, seriously, that's how they introduced them. Someone just throws a FedEx bag and then pops out the Chipettes, like saying,
Alright, here's your stupid chipettes. Now, you kids go make yourselves useful and go buy our products or something. I'm just gonna...
With films like Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel, it's no wonder why people leave the theater like Dave Seville.
Alvin!
Number 5. Inspector Gadget. I remember as a kid, I used to watch the Inspector Gadget show, and it was awesome. You have a goofy half-human, half-robot cop, a badass villain, a girl with her dog that always solves the case, cool gadgets, and not to mention the theme song. But I also remember when I first saw the film, I wondered why is it so different and not as cool as the TV show. And even to this day, every time I see that thing, I still ask the same question. But back onto the movie itself. Remember that scene in Moulin Rouge where everybody's explaining to the Duke about their show and it's all like... Well, that's pretty much Inspector Gadget in a nutshell, except not as fun. It's just a giant mess of sound effects, plot holes, annoying characters that weren't even from the show, and stupid over-exaggerated faces. But what it fails to do the most is to be an adaptation. This thing follows the show as well as a 100-yard dash for people with no sense of direction. For starters, let's look at Gadget himself, played by Matthew Broderick. His problem in the movie is that he's just stupid. Well, what I mean is that he's not Gadget stupid, but stupidly awkward. The kind that's not funny and makes you feel a bit uncomfortable.
I know that it's a common flaw that Broderick has when he's in a bad movie, but this is like the magnum opus of stupidly awkwardness, giving us such memorable performances like this.
No! I gotta get out of here.
Then we have the main villain, Dr. Claw, played by Rupert Everett. Now, in the show, he's been highly known for being threatening because of his evil deep voice and the fact that we only see his arm during the entire series, so we never know what he actually looks like. In the movie, they decided to go in the complete opposite direction. Not only do we clearly see him, but he also gets over the top, goofy, and sometimes goes for the suave type of villain. But the big thing that doesn't work out is that the movie is trying to tell us that this guy is supposed to be that guy.
Oh, how cliche, Inspector. I think somebody's been watching too many Saturday morning cartoons.
Huh. You talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
No. It's cool, De Niro. I got this. You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. And, by the way, if you want to make a good adaptation of Inspector Gadget, I think you should too!
Now, you could make the argument that the film is only loosely based on the cartoon. But here's a good question to counter that. If that's the case, why do they play the Inspector Gadget theme all the time? I gotta admit, what they did in the intro was really cool, but after that, it just gets repetitive.
You're alive.
It's like if the movie is trying to remind us what we were watching after we ask, what the fridge is this crap? Inspector Gadget. Go-Go Gadget failure. Oh, and if you want to know about my thoughts on the sequel...
I ain't taking any chances.
Deception, disgrace.